Welcome back to this week's episode of the Goonery. Got myself and Brandon here. We're going to be breaking down the NFL draft, what we thought about Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears performance, and then getting into some wrestling per usual at the end. First and foremost, Brandon, if you had one word to describe the Chicago Bears draft and Ryan Poles' performance, what would it be?
Wow, that's a good question. Triumphant. I mean, look, you go into day 3, it was looking a little scary. I mean, only having such minimal picks, I forget the exact number, and then you end up with 11 picks overall is a damn good job, regardless of what day it is. Because, if history tells us anything about the Bears, even in the Ryan Pace era, is that they found gems in the later rounds. So the fact that Poles knew there was a market there and he made the moves that he made, got 4 offensive linemen, and he addressed the secondary, which, I know a lot of people talking about getting a wide receiver and that being the main thing they should target on day 2. But the secondary need to be shored up, and they did that and then some. So that's a good job. And then I know there's been a lot of talk about the Velus Jones pick. And here's the thing. Admittedly, when we picked him, I didn't know anything about him. And I said, okay, let's do some research, because all I know is that the guy's 25 years old, which in that in of itself is kind of a red flag, but I just want to see how the kid plays. And then the more I watch highlights, the reaction quickly turned from who is this guy to I could see where this could work. And here's the thing about sports fans, and this isn't just just a Bears fan thing. This is every fan base. When you are locked into one guy or 2 or 3, and they don't take that guy, they tend to get upset and not even give a chance to the guy that they actually picked, even though the guy that they actually picked can actually play some football too. So what I would tell Bears fans is relax. I understand that it's not the most sexiest of drafts just off the strength of not having any draft capital whatsoever. But what this football team is being based around is what Ryan Poles wants to build. And that's very important, to have guys in that room that believe in him and believe in his voice and want to have a certain vision for the team. So, like I said, it was very triumphant with considering how many picks we had. And I can't wait to see who's going to be the guy to really break out from this draft class, because it's going to be somebody. 11 guys can't fail, so it's going to be somebody.
Yeah, and if I had one word to describe it, I would say precedented. So coming out of this draft, you can tell Ryan Poles as a type. He likes big, strong, athletic motherfuckers, and people might not love that Velus Jones pick, like you said. Yeah, he's 25. He'll probably play one contract with the Bears, if we're being honest. He'll play his rookie deal, and I bet that's about it. And that's fine. If he proves to be good in that contract, that's fine. It was a success. And I wasn't too happy about that, obviously, but Justin Fields likes him. So if he's on Justin Fields' short list, I'm okay with it. And people really tend to forget. I don't think Darnell Mooney is ever going to be a Pro Bowl receiver. I don't think he's that good, but he had 1,000 yards last year. People are acting like Fields has nothing. Cole Kmet is due for a breakout. I mean, we've been saying this now for how many years, but he had 600 yards last year too, I believe. You have David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert still, and they added a few other veteran receivers this offseason, and I don't think it's as bad as people think. Were there some guys? Yes. I would have liked to have seen George Pickens taken instead of Jaquan Brisker. But then again, I'm assuming you saw the video of Pickens when he got drafted. Did you see that?
He's as strange as they come, but he's probably a damn good football player.
Oh, yeah. And I was like, after I saw that, I was like, shit. Well, maybe it's a good thing we didn't get him, because I don't know what was going on in his mind, but it was something. But I really like the Braxton Jones pick. I mean, I think that he'll probably kick inside the guard if I was to guess. But there's a lot of potential with what they got here. And then Doug Kramer from Illinois, my fellow Illini, he's going to surprise some people. I think. I don't think he'll be a every week starter, but he'll end up being a solid sixth, seventh offensive lineman for a good amount of years in the NFL. I think he's a bad motherfucker. He's a Big Ten center, 4-year starter. I know Illinois is not a good program, but if you're a 4-year starter in the Big Ten on the offensive line, you're pretty damn good.
And also, one thing that people have been talking about, but are really missing is that Zach Thomas may start week 1. And you're getting that value in the 6th round. Let's think about that for a second, because I think a lot of the times us fans want us to get every need out the way in the early rounds, when honestly, sometimes it may not be like, sometimes it is as simple, sometimes it's not. And one thing that Poles knew was that there was going to be a market for guys like this. And this goes back to what I said last week of the tweet that I saw, that the same guys that's going to be picked at 5, the same talent that's going to be picked at 5 is the same talent that's going to be picked at 55.
Yep.
And that could go beyond too. And that's just kind of a testament to how deep this draft was. And, you know, I think a lot of people got also realized too, a lot of these guys that got drafted, they're smaller school guys.
Yeah.
So obviously they're not going to get as much, praise as the guys who play in the big conferences. So if you really do your research and see how they play, you make your own judgment on it. That's cool to you. If he doesn't move you, okay. But just do the research. Just do the research first, because I came away being very, very excited by the guys that we drafted. And it's a consistent thing of whom we're drafting. I think that's very important.
Yeah, and we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. I mean, the Bears walked into day 2 and 3 with 6 picks total. They ended up having 11 selections. So, I mean, Ryan Poles, he worked some magic to get those deals done. It got annoying as a fan at points, but then you kind of think about it. Once you're outside of the first round in the NFL, it's a lottery, I'll say, for the most part. And if you can collect 5 more lottery picks than you started with, I'm taking that every day of the week. I don't care if I'm picking at 168 instead of 162. If I'm going to get another pick, let's be honest, the guy you want at that point will most likely still be there. And I just think that, I know people like to, I don't want to say I haven't seen anyone dumping on Poles, because I haven't, but people playing armchair GM saying that they would have drafted better than the Bears. Let's be honest, no, you wouldn't have. They're there for a reason. And look how the Chiefs have drafted. Ryan Poles has been in some very successful draft rooms, so he knows what he's doing. So let him cook. Like, I'm very excited to see where he takes this team.
And that's the funny thing, because if you look at the approach from the Bears this offseason, it's everything you could have wanted. Offloading bad contracts and just starting fresh. Because after the 2019 season should have been a real, okay, let's press the restart and let's get this thing over. Because I think me and you can agree that the roster that came into the 2020 season, there was no way in hell they was going to compete. But they thought they could compete. They could compete. We didn't think that. So the fact that he knows he's not working with much in terms of money, in terms of draft picks, he did everything possible to make room for both. Yep. If that doesn't tell you as a Bears fan that he knows what he's doing and will know what to do next season and going further, then I don't know what to tell you. I think you're just miserable as a fan, and you want to be miserable, so you're going to think of every bad scenario possible. And that's not good as a fan. And so what if the Bears go 6-11 next season, or win 7 games, or the ceiling for them could be 8 or 9 games? And then what? You're going to look like a fool because you counted them out when it was time to draft, when in all reality, he worked magic to get way more picks than we should have had. So come on, like y'all got to be patient. Like us as Bears fans, we probably should not be patient. We've been starving for success, consistent success for a long time. And yet we just don't want to go through a rebuild. Well, guess what? We're gonna have to. If you're not cool with it, you probably should find another team.
Yeah, and I know you said you've been starving. We've been starving for years with the Bears. I mean, look how highly regarded and well revered that 2018 team was in the hearts of Bears fans, if that doesn't show upper management at Hallis Hall that like fans are clamoring for sustained success. I mean, there's no reason that one of the flagship franchises in the NFL should be as consistently bad as the Bears are. And I think finally with Ryan Poles, they are moving into the 21st century, and it feels good. It genuinely feels good. And if you think about it, like this is like kind of how I justify thinking about like the draft class. If Justin Fields was in this draft, he would have been the bona fide, without a doubt, #1 pick, and the Jaguars would have traded back so a team could jump up and take Justin Fields. And I don't think there's any doubt about that. I'm just loving every single list I'm seeing saying that Justin Fields is already a bust. He's like a guy who's going to regress in 2022, and it's okay. Sure. Show me it. Show me where he's going to regress, because he's only going to get better. He showed the flashes, and now that he has a legitimate offense with Getsy, he has a little bit more experience with the guys around him. And people saying that Poles isn't trying to give him weapons. You need an offensive line first, buddy. Like, first and foremost, that's what it comes down to. And why do you think, if it's not a quarterback taken every year in the NFL draft, why do you think it's an offensive lineman? Why do you think it's a defensive end? It's because those are the foundational building blocks that if you don't have that, no, it doesn't matter how good your quarterback is. Aaron Rodgers, if he doesn't have a good offensive line, he's nothing. Same with Mahomes. I mean, you got to keep your guy off the turf. And Poles is building towards getting a lot of mean motherfuckers on that offensive line. And I'm excited. And I was not, I won't say I was upset with the Poles hiring, but I just think he was such an unknown at that point when we hired him. But I'm happy with how things are going. And I think we're on the same page with that.
And the biggest thing too, with how many guys we have signed or haven't signed. Again, I think I said this. With what money are we signing guys? With what money? Like, I can't stress this enough. Can't stress it enough. We had no money. We had no draft picks. Ryan Poles was taking over a horrible situation. Not bad, horrible.
Legitimate.
So you have to give him time.
Yeah, like people do not understand how bad Ryan Pace fucked the organization up, and it's like it's just horrible. It's legitimately horrible what Poles is dealing with, and I'll tell you though, I know that I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm already looking forward to 2023 free agency class. I mean, there's some, I'm not going to say good receivers, but I mean, Debo is going to be hitting the market most likely. If they somehow brought in Debo Samuel, oh boy, that would be, it'll never happen. But realistically, I could see a reunion with someone like Nicole Hardman and Ryan Poles. I think that he's someone who could fit in and stretch the field a little bit. Maybe Juju has a revival in KC and wants to be a bona fide #1 again and comes to Chicago. And then there's other guys on that list who I think would fit in very well. I mean, someone like Jamison Crowder, he's a free agent. I'm a big fan of Jamison Crowder. I think he's a really good wide receiver and severely underrated. I don't even know how old he is, but I don't think it matters for his style of play. But I mean, there's and then DK Metcalf, obviously. I mean, Deontay Johnson. I don't see Deontay. Well, maybe Deontay Johnson does leave Pittsburgh, but then again, he can't catch a football. So
that's got to improve. If he improves that, he's going to get paid because he's really good, but he has to be consistent with catching the ball.
And then, I mean, I'm just going down the list still. You still have Terry McLaurin. I mean, I think he'll end up getting a big money deal from Washington to stick around. And then, Hunter Renfrow. Maybe he's unhappy having Devontae Adams there now too. And I would take Hunter Renfrow. I don't know about you.
Listen, I had Hunter Renfrow on my fantasy last season, and I can possibly say that he is the reason why I climbed out of a big hole and went on a 5-game winning streak. So I'll take him. Absolutely, I'll take him.
And I mean, obviously, they're going to address more areas than wide receiver, but I do genuinely think that their big splash in free agency next year will be on a wide receiver. And I think that Justin Fields is going to play a big part in who that is. But it's a solid free agency class across the board, which also looking forward to 2023. I really hope the Bears suck this year. Like, I hope they're like as bad as the Lions were this year, where they're playing in a bunch of close competitive games, but they're just not winning football games.
Yeah.
And I want them to just trade back and get so many goddamn picks with their first rounder next year, because it's a stacked quarterback draft. And like I said earlier, Bears don't need a quarterback.
Yep.
And if they could become the Oklahoma City Thunder of the NFL, where they're just collecting draft picks like it's Thanos and the Infinity Stones, I'll be happy with that, because then you can just keep convincing yourself on the future.
Listen, I am willing to wait to spend money. I listen. I don't care. And the fun. And I think the funniest thing about this is that people are very, very like concerned with Poles, considering he didn't spend much on the free agency. And granted, there wasn't a lot of guys out there that was worth spending the money. The main guy he was spending the most money was on Ryan Bates, until Buffalo decided to match them. By the way, I hate Buffalo, by the way. You want to talk about a team that they was taking picks that I wanted? Oh my God, I'm gonna have beef with them.
The punt
like
guy.
they were pissing me off.
I know you were legitimately upset about them taking the punt god. I mean, I would have loved him to replace Pat O'Donnell. I mean, I'll be honest. I know absolutely nothing about the punter that the Bears took. He's from like NC State, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever. I mean,
whatever. He got drafted, so I mean,
yeah, I mean, he's good enough to get drafted. That's when it comes to specialists. If I know a college specialist, it's because they either suck or there's something funny about them, like Rodrigo Blankenship with the Rec Specs. That's the only reason I knew who he was.
Yeah, that was something. And then Roberto Aguayo. I don't think I don't even think he's playing football anymore. So no. Yeah.
God, what a fall for grace from him. Trading up in the second round to take him. And God,
stunk.
Yeah.
Stunk.
Yeah. So
rough.
We kind of talked about how this quarterback class was fairly weak. Only one quarterback taken in the first round, and that's Kenny Pickett to Pittsburgh at, I think, 20th overall. I mean, that's about as good of a situation for him as he could get. He's staying right at home. Hell, who knows? Maybe he'll just ride out the lease for his college apartment. I mean,
yeah, might as well.
Who knows? But he's walking into a really good situation. One of the best head coaches in football, Mike Tomlin. Great weapons around him: Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson. I mean, I guess Chase Claypool. Now George Pickens. Freiermuth is a good tight end. It's going to be interesting to see if he's a day one starter, because I know that was a prove it deal for Mitch Trubisky, but I kind of feel like they still like. I don't know. It's just an interesting situation to me.
It's very interesting considering they were very steadfast in saying that Mitch Trubisky is the starter.
Yeah.
Now, problem is that regardless of us not knowing who Mitchell Trubisky truly is, considering he was let down by Matt Nagy, is he a guy that deserves the benefit of the doubt in terms of being a stopgap quarterback? And the real answer is we don't know. And possibly you could say flat out it's a no, because not for nothing, he's someone that you can see it. Like there's something there with him.
Yeah.
But the inconsistencies that we saw with just throwing the ball down the field is something that the Steelers have been missing with Roethlisberger just completely having his arm shot. So that's going to be an issue. So, and it's very interesting that Pickett and Trubisky are two guys that have relatively good arms, but they're both very athletic.
Yeah.
And I would say that Pittsburgh will make a big mistake if it's not an open competition going into camp. And if Pickett wins, I'm not gonna say it's a very big indictment on Trubisky, but man, that you came in here, as the guy, and then they picked another guy. You could have beat out that other guy. That's kind of rough.
I mean, I'm pulling for Mitch. I still am. I'll always have a special place in my heart for Mitch. But it's also interesting to note, though, that the Steelers took another quarterback in the 7th round. Definitely going to butcher his name. It's like Chris Oladukan or something like that. I think he went to like South Dakota State. And I thought that was interesting because they took him over Carson Strong. And Carson Strong was someone that we'd kind of been talking about pretty consistently on this show, I feel like, where we thought he could be someone. And he ended up not even being drafted. So, like, I don't know. The quarterback situation this year in the draft is interesting to me because there's a lot of people who fell. There's players taken before people you expected. I mean, I didn't expect Desmond Ridder to be the second quarterback off the board. I think he was the second, but
he was.
And it's just like were teams deliberately like passing on quarterbacks because they know how good the class is next year, or they just really thought they were that bad?
It's tough because, by the way, Carson Strong went undrafted because those medicals must have been horrible.
Yeah.
So bad because honestly, I would have had him over most quarterbacks in the draft. But
no, I would agree with you.
Issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, knee issues. So I mean that messed him up. But I will say he did end up in a pretty good situation with Philly. So let's keep a close eye on that. But in terms of the quarterback class, it's strange because I'm torn between it being a good class for every position, and then quarterbacks were just like the afterthought. Everybody had to get someone of a different position rather than getting a quarterback that you probably have to wait a year on. So you look at guys like Sam Howell or Matt Corral. Look at their situations. You can't tell me that either of those guys are not starting by week 10 or week 12. Because Sam Howell, like we talked about last week, we thought he was a shoo-in to be at least a top 10 pick. At some point before we had Justin Fields, we was like, I want to tank for that guy.
Yeah.
Even though he's a North Carolina quarterback and we have experience with that, he's way better than the other guy to be drafted.
And it comes down to, too, people are just dismissing him because he had a not so great this past season, but he lost 7 offensive starters with him. Majority of them skill players. What are you expecting him to do? And it's not like he's at a powerhouse where North Carolina is just regenerating talent, 4 or 5-star talent. He's playing for North fucking Carolina, which is an afterthought at that school.
And I was just about to bring that up. The
football program is an absolute afterthought at that school, and he lit it up. I don't care what you have to say. I mean, I'm looking at his stats right now from this past year. In 2021, 63% completion, a little over 3,000 yards, 828 rushing yards, and 35 touchdowns and 9 picks. I mean,
listen, I'm not sure.
144th overall. 144th overall. And I bet you Carson Wentz wasn't happy about that.
No, but what do you expect, though?
I agree. I mean, we said fall from grace earlier for another player, but like, holy shit, talk about the fall from grace for Carson Wentz. And I know his career's just been derailed by injuries, but like, I don't know. I mean, how many resets can he get as a quarterback? You know what I'm saying? This is stop number 3 for him, and this will have to be it because I don't even see him being a guy who would like to stick around in the league as a backup. I think he'd be a lot happier living in the middle of bumfuck North Dakota, shooting birds and doing whatever the hell he does.
It's weird with him because it feels like he has every excuse in the book, and I'm not one of those guys. I'm not going to be one of those guys, and I think 3 resets is way too much for a quarterback.
Yeah,
I know everybody deviates to a whole different conversation, but 3 resets from a guy that was going to win MVP one year and then he fell out of favor. And notice the common denominator that it seems like a lot of people just don't talk about. He had problems with the coaches everywhere he's gone.
Yep.
And it's crazy because we thought, oh, a guy like Carson Wentz, he really doesn't say much. He's such a great leader. How could he be such a diva when it comes to following commands?
Yeah.
Let me let you know something. Quarterbacks can be just as big as divas as wide receivers.
Yeah.
If they don't get their way, if they have a season that commands them the respect, let me tell you, they will run with it and they will continue to run with it. And that's why Carson Wentz is still demanding starter jobs at this point of his career.
Yep.
He's good, but I promise you, I would take so many quarterbacks over him, including some backups.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would take Sam Howell over him right now.
1,000%.
Like right now. And we talked about it too. You mentioned of Matt Corral. He'll end up being the starter as well if he's all healthy and good. I think that's going to be an interesting situation because Corral's skill set, call me crazy, reminds me of a more athletic Daniel Jones. So you saw Jones showed a lot of those flashes with Ben McAdoo as his head coach. And I think if McAdoo really just gets to sink his teeth into him, I think Matt Corral is going to be pretty fucking good if he can stay healthy, put on a little weight, and as long as he's not getting knocked around, sacked 4, 5, 6 times a game, he'll be okay, I think.
Yeah, and you know, you can't justify going into camp and not having an open competition.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I don't care if it's between Sam Darnold or Matt Corral, Sam Darnold or PJ Walker. What has Sam Darnold done to command a starting job or justify him going into the camp as the starter? He's done absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. He tricked the hell out of me because the first couple of games I was like, okay, he may have something.
Yeah.
And you know, we watched him before we drafted Fields. He was like, if he had just a little bit of better coaching, he might be pretty good.
I mean, we talked about on this show before how before we had Justin Fields that, hey, maybe we go out and get Sam Darnold on the cheap and turn him around. And thank the fucking Lord we did not because I don't know what happened to him on that Sunday Night Football game where he said we got mic'd up and they heard him saying he was seeing ghosts out there. I mean, that's just since then he has just gone on such a sharp decline. It's not even funny.
It's bad.
And I genuinely feel bad for him because he doesn't seem like a bad dude.
Not at all. Not at all. And I, you know, I live in the metropolitan area. He played for the Jets, and there was one thing that he did, you know, on the radio show that I listened to. He always put the loss on himself when sometimes he didn't need to do that. And honestly, guys who do that, you know, that their heart is always in the right place. But it's now with this going on, what happened last season, I can't say it is not his fault because it absolutely was. You get replaced by Cam Newton is a horrible sign for your career.
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna be completely honest. I forgot that we saw Cam Newton as a Panther.
Yeah, he doing a podcast with Brittany Renner now. I mean, shit, we forgot that he was even starting the league last year.
God, he was horrible. Like he made Sam Darnold look pretty okay at times.
Yeah.
Like that was sad watching that now that I think of it. But there's one quarterback that I think probably fell into the best situation possible for him, and Malik Willis down in Tennessee. And I know that Tannehill's being a fucking jagoff, saying that it's not his job to mentor Malik Willis. Like that's like fuck Tannehill for that first and foremost, because I mean, you're not going to lose your job to him right out of the gate. Like you're getting paid way too much money to get benched. You can get another contract? Probably not. Like, let's be honest, probably not. And with Malik Willis, we were talking about how there was rumors that the Lions were going to take him at 2, and he fell all the way down to 86. Like that, it blows my mind. And also, A+ Twitter performance from Malik Willis during the draft. I don't know if you saw his tweets. He got me to laugh multiple times, but I think that's going to be a really interesting situation. If I don't even know how much time is left on Tannehill's contract, but I think he'll end up being the starter there eventually within, if I was to guess, probably 2 years.
I'll go as far as say next year because
Oh wait, Tannehill is. I believe this is the last year of his contract.
so I'm gonna say something. So by the way, when draft night was going on and the Lions just kept trading up, I said there's no way in hell they're not taking Malik Willis. I said that multiple times. Didn't
Yeah,
happen. Crazy, but they Lions still had a great draft regardless.
they did.
But I I gotta be honest. I don't hate that Tannehill said what he said. And reason being is I'm gonna put this in a real life sense. I don't think anybody wants to train anybody that's going to eventually take their job.
I mean, that's no,
And,
that's a valid point. It's a valid point.
so
And
like I get it, but you do not say that out loud.
I think
I'm sorry,
that's more so the point that I think I missed. It's like that I meant to say because no shit you don't
yeah,
want to no shit you don't want to help the guy who's going to take your job from you eventually, but you don't need the media to eat you alive for that. It's only going to make things worse.
right, exactly. And you don't want that kind of negative press on you because listen, dude, you have nothing to be ashamed of. You were a guy that got ousted from Miami. People thought your career was done. You were sitting behind Marcus Mariota. You took his job, and then an AFC championship game, a number one seed in the AFC last year, you did pretty damn good for yourself. So I think Tennessee, they're in a tough situation right now. They lost AJ Brown, and then there's everybody else. They drafted my guy Hassan Haskins, shout out to him, and they stuffed Derrick Henry. But you look at the wide receivers they're throwing to. I mean, it's not good. It's not good.
No.
But that's why. Just going back to the Bears talk that we had, the wide receiver class for next season, whether it be free agency or draft, is looking pretty damn good. So if they're going to go for it with Malik Willis, they draft him at the perfect time so they can load up on guys they can get to catch the football. So good on them.
And it also makes me think too, with their lack of receivers right now, are they really expecting Derrick Henry to have like 400 touches next year? Like it's going to be insane if he stays healthy. How many times he'll call me crazy. Derrick Henry stays healthy with the extra game as well. He'll rush for almost 2,500 yards if he stays healthy with how much he's going to get the ball.
Probably. But I tell you, it's gonna damage his career so bad. And that's why I understand there's no AJ Brown, but find a balance or else it's going to be really, really bad. And granted, you have a guy like Hassan Haskins who kind of has the same running style as Derrick Henry, so it would take mileage off of him.
Mm-hmm.
But they are going to have to rely on him a lot next year, and it's going to be kind of ugly for him going forward if that's going to be the case.
And I mean, they still managed to win football games this past year, and they were the most beat up team in all of football. Mike Vrabel's a good head coach, so I'm sure they'll figure something out, but they're not going to be that on the verge team that everyone thought they were these last few years where, they could get there. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting to watch, but kind of pivoting towards wrestling. Both of us, obviously, big WWE fans. Something that's kind of irked me. We've been talking about how great WWE has been since WrestleMania, roughly, like the weeks leading up to WrestleMania. But does WWE know what unification and undisputed means at this point? Because I don't think they know what they want to do. They said it was a unification match between Roman and Brock, and then he's still carrying around 2 belts, and then they just completely scrapped the plans for the tag team title unification match between the Usos and RK Bro that was scheduled for this Sunday in favor of a 6-man tag match between the Bloodline, RK Bro, and Drew McIntyre. If they were going to do that, why not do the fucking, like they did it with, I forgot what pay-per-view it was at, but I know it was Triple H, Shane McMahon, and I believe it was Shawn Michaels versus Legacy with the WWE title on the line.
I know what match you're talking about. I just can't remember the guys, but
yeah, it was Legacy. So Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, Ted DiBiase. Why wouldn't you do that to at least have one of your world titles defended on the pay-per-view following WrestleMania? none of your tag team titles are being defended. To be honest, I don't really know how that card is even looking, and the show is on Sunday, and I've been paying attention to wrestling.
So I have a hot take. I don't think Roman should even be on WrestleMania Backlash. And
you know what?
Here's the reason. If you are going to go full steam ahead with Shinsuke Nakamura, you should have did it. If you're going to go full steam ahead with Drew McIntyre, you probably should have did it earlier. My thing is, the hottest feud going into WrestleMania Backlash is RK Bro and the Usos. So if you told me that was going to be the match, it was going to close the show, winner takes all, I'm cool with that. I'm more than cool with that, because you want to know why? You have two teams. One is the best tag team in the world, and number two, you have a guy Randy Orton, who has elevated everybody's been in the ring with since he's been a tag team wrestler, and you have Riddle, who's going to wrestle his ass off any chance he gets. They're overthinking it now. If this is the angle where they're gonna go McIntyre and Roman and Money in the Bank, sure, that's a big event. They're gonna have it in a big ass crowd. Of course, that should be the angle. But to throw them into the match just because they both need something to do, I don't think they need anything to do. To be very honest with you, I really don't.
No, I agree. I would rather see him not on the card than in a relatively meaningless 6-man tag team match. Is the match going to be good? Oh, I bet the match is going to be fucking great. It's probably going to be entertaining as all hell. But the tag team division is so hot right now. Like this was WWE's opportunity to have a tag team title match main event to pay-per-view. And if I like pure 2 tag teams, if I had to guess, I bet that would be the first WWE pay-per-view that has ever had the tag team titles main event to pay-per-view. I mean, just if I had to guess.
You're probably right about that.
And it felt more important than anything else in the company at that point. And I don't know what changed their mind. I'm interested to know what changed their mind. And I think a lot of this comes down to, call me crazy, WWE doesn't really know what they're doing with Roman Reigns' storyline at this point, I don't think, if that makes sense, because who is there legitimately, with how they've built him up, that can beat him with any type of legitimacy at this point? Maybe 1 or 2 people tops. Seth Rollins or Cody Rhodes at this point, maybe.
There's only 2 you could think about, but also, here's how it should have went down. It should have started that SmackDown after WrestleMania, where Roman says, "I done it all." He said it. "I done it all." And says, "It's time for y'all to get the shine. Uso, it's time for y'all to get the shine. You go get those tag team championships. I'm going to go away for a little bit, and you do what you got to do and bring me back those championships." And everything would have been solved. Everything. Yeah. And I understand what WWE is doing with the pay-per-views. They're making it more of a big deal because they're not overcompensating with pay-per-views anymore. Thank goodness, by the way.
Yes.
So they're trying to make everything a big deal. But the problem is, when you're trying to do that, you're going to overthink it. And I feel like now they kind of back themselves into a corner of what they're going to do with Money in the Bank, because who is it going to be? You already kind of planted seeds for Shinsuke with Roman. Drew McIntyre gets thrown in there randomly, and not for nothing. Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns is a pretty big storyline that you will want to have the proper build, and you will also want to have on a big pay-per-view.
They're gonna end up saving their blow-off title match for that stadium show in England, I think.
Probably.
And do you want to call me crazy? I think that's gonna be, because Roman is going to keep the Universal title for a long time. In my opinion, he needs to lose the WWE title soon. And I don't want to say soon, but I mean, you can't have one champion, in my opinion, with as big as WWE's roster is.
I agree.
And I think Drew McIntyre is probably going to take the WWE title off of Roman at the stadium show in England. I do. And then WWE has the opportunity to build up the second biggest heel in the company by whoever wins Money in the Bank, cashing in on Drew McIntyre and taking the title from him in England.
I mean, they do have an opportunity to do that, but if I honestly, I would probably say Rollins should be the guy. He should be unless they want to do the triple threat route
and
and
have Roman
have Roman not take the pin.
yeah,
I'm cool with that. I don't care.
realist,
Frankly, I really don't care who's the next WWE champion. I honestly don't, because I've accepted Cody's going to be the champion at one point. I desperately want Rollins to win the title again.
dude. He's too good right now to not be a top champion. Like it is unbelievable. Like I've always appreciated Seth Rollins. I've never loved him, but what he's doing right now is so fucking entertaining. And I mean, him and Cody Rhodes just have fantastic chemistry. They really, really do. And I've enjoyed this feud a lot. And I don't know. I would love to see Kevin Owens get another run with the belt, because with everything that he's been doing character-wise and build-wise with his matches lately, I mean, he's a star. Kevin Owens is a star. He built a match with Stone Cold by himself. He's making Ezekiel the most entertaining fucking part of Raw. And also, can we just touch on that? I thought I was gonna hate this storyline so much. It's so entertaining how they are just not like how they're just leaning into it so hard. I found that so entertaining for some reason.
And that's the power. That's the power of Kevin Owens. He can make you care about something that, honestly, if it was anybody else, I would probably be like, okay, sure. If it would fall under the same category as the 24/7 championship storyline, which, by the way, they really have to do away with. I'm honestly sick of it. But
I hate it, dude. Like the hardcore title, like they at least defended that in matches, in legit matches.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just roll up after roll up, everyone run around. I know it's to get people on TV, but you're doing nothing with that. That's the dumbest.
Yeah.
That might be the dumbest thing in pro wrestling right now is the 24/7 championship.
I agree. And it had such a good start. So it was very entertaining, but they've definitely, I think the Thunderdome or the PC really, really exposed like how like minuscule that title really, really is. And it serves no purpose.
Yeah.
But everything else with Ezekiel and Owens and the Rollins Rhodes, everything seems to be exciting. And this is kind of falls under the category of one of those pay-per-views we have no real expectations for. And one of the things I'm really looking forward to is Balor going to turn on Styles? Because I think that's one of the things that I've been like really going back and forth with.
I kind of think so. I do, because it looked like it was going to be Ciampa joining Edge and Priest, but now it looks like Ciampa and Ali are feuding for some reason, which, hey, whatever, get both of them on the TV, they're entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do think Balor is going to turn on Styles, and because Finn Balor needs something to do. He's too talented to stay off TV and not be involved in a major storyline. And the weakest part about Finn Balor is that he can't talk for shit on the mic. He has absolutely no charisma, in my opinion, on the microphone. And you have Edge talking for him, it solves every problem. And I think Finn Balor I still think he's awesome, but I think he's hit his ceiling in WWE at his current state. Turning heel and putting him with Edge would give him just a revival, in my opinion.
Okay, I'm glad you said it, because I don't think he hit his ceiling until he has a proper heel run in WWE. Until then, I will say that, yeah, he probably has hit his ceiling, but he needs a heel run. Yeah, this is the perfect opportunity for it. It truly, truly is. And I remember just him being on NXT after he turned heel on Ciampa and Gargano, and he had that promo. I was like, okay, he may have something. He legit may have something. So him joining Judgment Day would be perfect.
Yeah.
But I also wouldn't hate the idea of them, Styles and Balor, sticking together and eventually becoming tag team champions. I know it's unpopular because
I don't hate that either, though. it brings legitimacy to the tag team division. I mean, you've seen what Randy Orton's been able to do. You add 2 more legit main event stars to that mix because Randy Orton and Riddle are going to end up turning it. One of them is going to turn on the other at some point. And I'm going to be sad when they do because they're super, super entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the Street Profits have been elevated by Orton and Riddle. Alpha Academy, Chad Gable is fucking incredible, dude. Like,
incredible.
He needs a legit singles run because he is that good. And like, if Chad Gable was, I don't know, 2 to 3 inches taller, like, I hate saying that, but he would have been given a Kurt Angle type of run.
Oh, 100%.
Like, it's a shame because he is that good.
I do think the reason why he's in the tag team is more to do about Otis than about Chad Gable. I think they really want Otis to succeed. And I think he can succeed in some respects because I think if you just have him be a quiet ass kicker, that's good enough. Because there's some people you just have to accept who they are. Chad Gable is somebody that you can't do that with because he has so much potential to he can unlock. So I truly believe if, let's say, about a summer that a heel turn takes place between whoever, I don't know who would be. It would benefit the both of them. I honestly do.
And the thing is, though, with Chad Gable, he's not getting any younger. He's 36. So, I mean, there's only so much time all of us can keep saying he has all the potential in the world. And I would love to see him, at least get a mid-card title run at a bare minimum. Because I think if you let him run with it, you would put on super entertaining matches. And you've seen what he's done in singles matches. I mean, he didn't look out of place when he was in the 5-on-5 men's Survivor Series match a couple years ago, playing that bullshit Shorty G gimmick. And
oh god,
that was so bad. I mean,
I forgot about that.
But it just shows you he makes everything he's handed work somehow.
Yeah,
and you need guys like that. You genuinely do. That's like kind of all circles back to the point with Balor and Styles. If they're in the division, this just keeps legitimize whatever the word is, all of the other tag team wrestlers in the division, and they can more easily make that jump to being singles wrestlers more believable. If they're regularly wrestling guys like Balor, Styles, Orton, I mean, it matters. It matters. So I would like to see them stay as a tag team for that reason, but I also think the heel turn would be incredible.
Either way, we're winners, regardless of what happens.
Yeah. So I want to touch on one more thing from this past week. I know last week we talked about Undertaker's comments about Kenny Omega, and you did a little bit of a social experiment, I would say, where you put out the video of some of your thoughts on Omega, and what'd it take? Less than 20 minutes for someone to search Kenny Omega's name and find it and to just attack you on Twitter, but you were the intolerant one?
Okay, so I posted that video for a reason. I'd be lying if I said I didn't post that just to see if if people's wrestling daddies was going to get offended, and it worked. It actually worked. And it's kind of a long shot that somebody's going to find a video of yours when you have a little over 500 followers. So keep that in mind. But I had this one guy really come after me because I said Omega is not one of the guys that you would really like want to hear a promo for, or he's not a needle mover like the guys that I mentioned from mostly the Attitude Era. I had accused of being a WWE fanboy and saying an AEW hater and whatnot. I want you to understand something. And this goes for anybody who wants to get in my mentions. Number one, I always respond. I don't care who the hell you are. I really don't. You can threaten me or do whatever. I will respond. Yeah. Number two, I don't give a shit about your favorite wrestler. I never will give a shit about your favorite wrestler. And if you want to defend the honor of your favorite wrestler, who, by the way, unless you went to a meet and greet of theirs or you shook their hand, took a picture of them, they don't know you, bro. Sis, wherever the fuck you are, I don't know. They don't know you. So keep that in mind before you enter my mentions. And number three, stop embarrassing yourself of going after people over somebody that don't pay your bills. They don't study for your exams. They don't go to work for you. They don't clock in for you. They don't do nothing for you other than entertain you. You look horrible, you look stupid, and also, trying to attack this little thing we're doing, this podcast. And this is my dream. I want to do this. I want to do this shit for a living. If you want to dig up some jokes that I be making or whatever, you should probably scroll down my time. Like, I make jokes all the time. I made a DMX joke today, and I was emotional when he passed away last year. The jokes are going to fly everywhere, but it doesn't mean that I have any ill intent behind it. So if you want to destroy what we're doing, you probably don't have anything going for yourself. So for that person who has me blocked, by the way, even though he went on an insane diatribe for at least an hour going back and forth with me, be better. Don't come in my mentions. And honestly, I'm not even going to mince words. You should probably shut the fuck up.
Hey man, I also wanted to say, do you realize how big of an asshole you are for posting a GIF of Chris Benoit? Like,
I mean, but you know something?
I'm fucking around. I found that.
I know, but you know something? I think I am a better person than those who ask every single damn year, is he getting inducted into the Hall of Fame? You might want to come for those people first and not me.
I love to, because I went and looked at this guy's Twitter, looking through the whole beef, I guess. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Scrolling through his Twitter, and I'm like, let's go look at his likes. 2 of his last 3 liked tweets involved Kenny Omega. So the fact that dude is going and just searching Kenny Omega looking to get into a keyboard fight, I can assure you one thing. That man has never touched a woman or man, whatever he's into, it doesn't matter, but that man has no life out of sitting down and watching wrestling every single night.
And I can confirm that he's never felt the warmth of a woman. You want to know why? Because that GIF I sent on Chris Benoit on Twitter, I was interacting with my girlfriend. You know what my girlfriend got for those troubles? She got blocked by him. I never told you that, but she got blocked.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
But I kid you not, my girlfriend called me saying, "What's going on? I got blocked by somebody. You said their tweet. I couldn't even see it." I'm like, really? Oh man. Do you know how much of a miserable person you gotta do to block an innocent bystander? Oh boy, I tell you, these wrestling people are crazy. Stay away from these people. They're not safe people.
I'll be honest, I would kind of love to have him come on the show and just see what he has to say.
I honestly would absolutely school him, and I would probably call him out of his name. It would probably get ugly. Addresses would probably be exchanged. I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't play that.
Since he's probably watching this after just waiting to see what we had to say, I wouldn't be surprised if he was lurking still. If you want, leave us a comment on YouTube that you want to hop on. You could hit me up on Twitter. You can see it at the innkeeper _ the I is a 1. I would love to talk to you. So with that being said, I think that's going to wrap up today's show. Thanks if you made it this far. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we will see you next week.